I never thought betrayal would come packaged in a smile and a handshake. His name is Daniel, my wife Emily's closest male friend. That's what she always called him. He's like family, she'd say. And I wanted to believe her. For years, I forced myself to ignore the long texts, the inside jokes, the way she lit up whenever his name appeared on her phone. But it was one evening, sitting across from him at dinner, when the truth slapped me across the face. He leaned back in his chair, looked me dead in the eyes, and said words that will haunt me forever. She doesn't need you anymore. At first, I thought I had misheard. Maybe it was a joke, some badly timed attempt at humor. But then I saw the smirk, the confidence, the way Emily lowered her eyes and said nothing. That silence was louder than any insult. My heart pounded. My hands tightened around the fork I was holding. I looked at Emily, waiting for her to defend me, to defend us. But all she did was take a sip of wine and murmur, "Don't start, James." Don't start? That was the moment I realized I had been living in a fantasy. The truth was clear. Emily had let this man cross boundaries that should have never been touched. She gave him space in her life that belonged to me. And now he was bold enough to sit across from me, in my own house, and tell me I was no longer necessary. The betrayal cut deep. Not just because of Daniel's arrogance, but because Emily let it happen. She didn't shut him down. She didn't reassure me. She let his words hang in the air, as if he were right. I wanted to explode, to scream, to throw him out of my house. But instead I stayed calm. I smiled faintly and said, "Interesting. Very interesting." Because in that moment I decided something. I wouldn't argue. I wouldn't fight for scraps of respect. No, if Emily truly thought she didn't need me anymore, then I would make sure she felt the full weight of life without me. And Daniel? He had no idea the fire he had just lit inside me. The night after Daniel's smug declaration, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying every little moment I had brushed off as innocent. Emily's phone face down at dinner. The way she'd step outside to take his calls. Her constant defense. "You're overthinking, James. He's just a friend." But now it all fit together like a cruel puzzle. She hadn't just been protecting a friendship. She had been protecting him. The next morning, I didn't bring it up. I acted normal. I kissed her forehead before work, smiled like everything was fine. Because now, it was time for me to stop reacting and start planning. Emily thought she had the upper hand. Thought I was too soft, too devoted, too blind to ever walk away. Daniel thought I was weak, irrelevant, a placeholder. They were both about to find out how wrong they were. I started small. Quiet. I reviewed our finances, checking what accounts were joint and what was solely under my name. I began moving things around carefully, nothing obvious, but enough to put me in control of what mattered most. Stability. At home, I observed. Emily's late-night texting became harder to disguise, and I noticed the way she guarded her phone like it was treasure. She thought I wasn't paying attention, but I was noticing everything. One evening, I caught a glimpse of her screen as she set it down for just a second. Daniel's name. A string of laughing emojis. Her smile was brighter than I'd seen in months. It stung, but it also fueled me. At dinner that night, I asked casually, "So Emily, when exactly did Daniel become more important than me?" She froze, fork halfway to her mouth. Her eyes darted to mine, then to the plate, and she whispered, "You're being dramatic." Dramatic? I leaned forward, lowering my voice. "Your best friend looked me in the eye and said you don't need me anymore. And you sat there, silent. So tell me, Emily, was he right?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Her silence was confirmation enough. That was when I made my decision. I wouldn't beg for respect from either of them. Instead, I would show Emily exactly what life looked like when I stopped being the man she took for granted. And as for Daniel, he would regret underestimating me. Over the next few weeks, I pulled back. Not with anger or shouting, but with silence. I stopped initiating conversations, stopped chasing her approval, stopped playing the role of the husband desperate to be chosen over her friend. Emily noticed. At first she seemed relieved, maybe even empowered. She stayed out later, laughed harder at her phone, and assumed I was simply fading into the background. But what she didn't realize was that I was preparing the stage for her reality check. I had shifted the accounts. The mortgage, the car payments, the savings, they were now tied securely to me. My lawyer helped me prepare documents quietly, making sure every move was legal and airtight. Emily thought I was asleep beside her at night, but I was wide awake, finalizing the plan. Then the moment came. One evening, Daniel showed up again, as casual as ever, carrying a bottle of wine like he belonged in my home. He didn't knock, he walked in smirking. "James," he said smoothly. "I think you know by now. Emily doesn't really need you anymore." But this time, I didn't stay silent. I stood, looked him dead in the eye, and replied, "You're right. She doesn't. And that's why everything she did need, this house, the life she enjoyed, it's no longer hers to keep." Emily's face drained of color. "What are you talking about?" I calmly laid the papers on the table. "While you were busy convincing yourself you'd upgraded, Emily, I was protecting myself. The accounts are mine. The house is mine. You've been treating me like an option, and Daniel here as your future. But the reality is neither of you thought about the consequences." Daniel scoffed, but his eyes flickered. Emily, for the first time, looked truly scared. I continued. "You wanted to believe I was weak. But weakness isn't trusting your spouse, it's betraying that trust. You'll soon see the difference." And with that, I walked away, leaving them both speechless. Weeks later, Emily tried reaching out, sending messages filled with regret, with pleas for another chance. But by then, I had already moved on. My silence was her answer. Daniel's smug look that night had sparked something in me, but it also destroyed them both. Because in the end, Emily learned the hardest truth of all. When you tell a man he's no longer needed, don't be surprised when he finally proves you right.